All right, one more example in our lesson today. We're solving systems of equations, word problems, right? And so this one's just a little bit different. Josephine's thinking about putting a garden in her backyard. Okay. Her garden plot had a perimeter of 80 feet, area of 384 square feet. Find the dimensions of her garden plot. So maybe just draw a quick picture. Pretty easy to visualize this. Doesn't need to be fancy, so we've got our length, of course, usually the longer side, and our width. A couple simple relationships that we know from your previous experience. Perimeter, well, that would be the distance around the outside. So, of course, we would have 2L plus 2W equals 80. That would be one equation, and we could divide 2, notice, through that and simplify that to just L plus W equals 40. In fact, let's just do that. So L plus W equals 40. It's just a simplified version of that same equation. Okay, then our second equation is area. Well, of course, area is length times width, right? If we take two sides and multiply them together. So we also have L times W equals 384. So there are our two equations we're going to work with. Notice, two variables. We still needed two equations. So we could substitute different things we could do. Now, one difference in this, notice this is multiplied together, whereas our other examples, we've always had a addition or subtraction where we could eliminate pretty easily. So there's different ways you could tackle this. I'm going to go ahead and substitute. Okay. So if I take this equation right here, and I rewrote it as W equals 40 minus L. And you could do either variable, right? It's not going to be any different. So W equals 40 minus L. I'll show you why I went that way. Now let's substitute that in for W right here. I'm going to come over here. So we've got L times 40 minus L equals 384. Well, now we've got an equation, only one variable. Let's clean it up. Let's see where it takes us. So if I multiply that through, I'm just going to come over here. We have 40L minus L squared equals 384. And here's the difference from the ones we've solved previously today. Oh, this is a quadratic. This is why, by the way, the previous lesson, it maybe fell out of place, but I threw in a little solving quadratics review. Complete the square, use a quadratic formula. Of course, you can factor if the factors look really obvious, okay? So that's why I threw that in. So let's rearrange this. And so I'm going to write it L squared. If I basically take everything to the same side, L squared minus 40L plus 384 equals 0. And again, it's a good place to start, maybe set our quadratic equal to 0. Now, I would guess the dimensions of this thing are going to be probably decent numbers. They may not be. These numbers are kind of big though, so I don't know any obvious factors of 384. So just to model the problem, I'm going to complete the square. Okay, just remind us of that process. So let's set that up. So L squared minus 40L plus something. Remember, we'll take that 384 over to the other side. Now, what goes in the box? So half of 40, so that's 20, squared is 400. And make sure we add it to both sides, okay? Let me shift my paper just a little bit. Now we can factor this really nicely because it's going to be a nice perfect square. So L minus 20 squared equals, what do we got, 16 over here? Okay, now we can take the square root of both sides. So L minus 20 equals plus or minus 4. Of course, square root of 16 is a nice number, it's 4. So L could be 20 plus or minus 4. So let's think about that. So 20 plus 4 would be 24. 20 minus 4 would be 16. Well, the length, That's actually the dimensions, by the way. The length, though, is the longer side, the length is the longer side the way we solved it. So for our length, let's go with the bigger number. That would make the width, right? We're basically just coming back to this equation here. The width is going to add up to 40, and so the width has got to be 16. I guess we better throw some units in, because these are measurements. And so our final answer is a 24 by 16 plot. Our length is 24, our width is 16. So you'll see a couple of those on the practice assignment today. So feel good about that process. Again, not any harder, just get to solve a quadratic along the way.